with Natalia. I've got a special guest all the way in the UK, Gabriella Somerville, who's the founder of ConnectJets. I'm very excited to have you on. How are you?
Hi, Natalia. I am very well, thank you. Very well, and very good to see you and speak to you after a long time.
Yes, last time we were in the Monaco Yacht Club, I think it was, and we were having a chat with a private bank about
it was.
Yeah,
and it was a long time ago now. So yeah, so there we go. So good to reconnect.
Fantastic, and also the whole sense of connecting. So ConnectJets. Tell us a bit more about the history, because it's quite exciting. I know some people are very excited to hear more about how you were affiliated with, the Branson Empire, let's put it that way, and Virgin, and that kind of led into ConnectJets and where you are today.
Yeah, exactly. I was original Virgin girl going back to 1988, so a long time ago. Very long time ago. And then I just pursued a career in aviation, was with Virgin for 7 years, British Airways for 7 years. Then I joined Bombardier in 2003, I think it was. And then the rest is kind of history. It was sort of business aviation since 2003. So Bombardier, VistaJet, and then ConnectJets in 2009. So I went from, should I say, serving a tin coffee at 32,000 feet to selling the aircraft, which is quite an interesting road and journey. Indeed, it was.
Fantastic. Yeah. And especially in the industry, and we're talking about, International Women's Day is coming up on the 8th of March, and I'm doing a little bit of celebration of women in prominent positions and who have taken the reins and created their own businesses. So in terms of that, maybe you'd like to share, how was it to be a woman and get into that very, very corporate and male dominated private aviation and commercial aviation world?
Yeah, I mean, the commercial aviation world, being a stewardess at Virgin, it was probably predominantly more female than the male, as in that arena. So the commercial world has always been quite a sort of level playing field in certain areas, not necessarily in flight crew. When I came into business aviation, it was inherently a male-dominated industry. And to give you some example, I would be presenting in a room of 150 people, and I would possibly most of the time be the only female, which I've sometimes laughed about and said was very good, because if it was at a conference, then there'd be no queue for the toilet. So there were benefits to that. But yes, it was a very conservative male-dominated arena, but it's really changed, and it is continued to change over the last sort of probably 5 years more so, which is really good, because we needed that, because it wasn't equal, particularly in certain areas. We go back to flight crew, engineering, aircraft sales. We had a very small percentage of women in those roles, and now we're sort of starting to see that increase. So it's been actually great to be on that journey, to be able to have broken up a little bit of that hard ground. It hasn't necessarily been easy, because whenever you're breaking up a little bit of hard ground, or where people haven't trodden before, then there's a bit of resistance to it. But I'm glad that sort of 10 years, it is now nearly 11 years of running ConnectJets, and obviously being one of the first women to get an agency agreement with a manufacturer, Piaget Aerospace. Those sort of breakthroughs have been sometimes challenging, but great to be the other side now and seeing other women fulfill those roles. And I think we will only go on to do more and more. So we've got lots to celebrate in that way.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah. In fact, that's how we first met those 10, 11 years ago in London.
Yes, we did. I know. It flies.
Good word.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And in terms of eBay, like, I go every year and I try and maintain that tradition of the aviation aspect, and seeing old familiar faces and new faces as well. What has changed in terms of business aviation today, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, we've seen exponential growth. So if we think about when 10 years ago, and even let's go back 15 years ago, when I was sort of working with Bombardier, England was just kind of coming into its embryonic stage of business aviation. Europe, we had few operators. Those operators had very small fleets. Now, 10 years later, we're seeing fleets such as VistaJet, Lux Aviation, multiple NetJets fleets around the world. So business aviation has really grown. It continues to grow. It gives people the autonomy that they want. It allows people to go into the emerging markets, allows people to govern their schedule. And as we're seeing, enterprise, entrepreneurs and multinational groups growing around the world and travel becoming far easier, we will continue to see growth. Of course, there are new challenges now, and the new challenges are with environmental issues. So whilst the last 10 years, again, for the industry itself has been breaking down certain barriers, people's perception of business aviation. But now, I believe globally that business aviation is a very strong force. It's here to stay. And it's something that we will continue to see grow over the years with different aircraft types and with different ways. And because now we have a certain mobility problem in the UK, we have to look at the smaller vehicles. We have to look at sustainable aviation, so EVT Oels, electric aircraft. And so the future is starting to kind of look a little bit different. The landscape ahead is going to look different. And it's how we as an industry now adapt to that change going forward.
Amazing. And you mentioned that sustainable aspect, and I noticed on your Instagram account that there was something exciting happening a couple of days ago or weeks ago now in London. Tell us a bit more about that. Vertical aerospace.
That's right, vertical aerospace. Well, as we just said about the EVT Oels, which stands for electrical vertical takeoff and lift. These are the aircraft of the future. And basically, we are as little as probably 3 years away from seeing those flights become real and seeing those aircraft flying around from us. The one that you saw at Canary Wharf, that was the second prototype from vertical aerospace called the Seraph, and that is can hold up to 250 kg per person. And they've actually already done a test flight on that aircraft. They've got a third prototype, which will be at Farnborough this year. And they're probably one of the fastest growing EVT Oels. And what's really great is it's here in Bristol, it's here in the UK, it's a post-Brexit. It's that aviation, that history that we have in this nation, hopefully will resurrect. So these aircraft, of course, we're looking at decarbonisation of the industry. So there's a huge amount of interest around these aircraft on many levels. One is that you can, these aircraft have the capability of doing city to city, flying at low level, and they will be great for a nation like the UK, where we need that infrastructure, transportation infrastructure, to help improve. When the large multinationals are coming into the UK, they need to see that we have the capability and accessibility to go from the Channel Islands to the UK, from Ireland, Isle of Man, all the links that are so vital. And the key thing is that with the environment, we have to make sure that we are moving forward with the times and creating sustainable aircraft. So these EVT Oels are very much the future. And where people sort of say to me, well, yeah, this is 10 years away. This is like where they're going to park, so many questions, insurances, safety. So Connect Skies, which you made reference to, is a new business we have started here in the UK, so it's part of the ConnectJets group, but it's looking wholly at sustainable aviation. And what we want to do is be a platform that educates the future customer of an EVT Oel, so we can educate them in terms of the safety of the aircraft, how they're going to work, all those questions, costs, and all those elements. We are really sort of going to focus on this site, and will be a sort of channel to entry, if you like, for the future EVT Oel user. And that will start as in the next 2 to 3 months. You'll see on our website, it'll be an interactive sort of forum, allowing people to really see how this aircraft could work in their lives, and how real is it, and how answering all those vital questions, which I'm sure many people have. And I know at Canary Wharf there are many questions that sort of came up at the time.
That's amazing and very interesting. And of course, everyone's talking about it, not just in aviation, but in yachting, across the board. It's all about the sustainable aspect and how to be green or more efficient and reduce that footprint. So exciting times, really exciting. And I want to find out more in a couple of months' time as to what's going on there. So amazing. So what I wanted to ask you also is, well, you're kind of expanding into different avenues now. And do you feel that as an entrepreneur, that is important to align yourself to keep yourself at the top of the game, or how do you perceive it?
I think the definition of an entrepreneur is that you're never really happy living in the present. And that is something that's because you are always thinking about the future. You're never sort of satisfied in one sense with the now, which maybe people say as negative. But I think we are purposely visionaries, and visionaries are always looking ahead. They're always planning the next day. So one can never really be truly happy if you're just doing the same. And I think as an entrepreneur, I'm always trying to look for is always, of course, opportunities in the marketplace, but I'm also looking at thinking, looking at the roadmap ahead. So where is aviation going? Where is the next 5 years? Where are we going? What is our message? What is our personality? And how can we change this world too? Because I think part of an entrepreneur, their kind of DNA is they want to have a legacy. They have core values, they have core ethics, they want to do certain things to create change, not just for change's sake, but because they have a story, a narrative in it that they want to kind of share with the world. So we almost, I think most of us feel we have a cause, and the key thing is aligning yourself to that cause and where you think that your sort of next position is, or what you're doing next. So I suppose with ConnectJets, we had fulfilled a very successful role over the last 10 years. We went from starting off as a small charter company to a sort of global charter company, then being the first company to get an agency agreement with Piaggio Aerospace in Italy, where we can boast that we've sold up to sort of, I think the total would be about 14 units in total. So, we've managed to kind of break a few things down and change a few things. And then you get to a certain point where you think, right, okay, now we need to rethink, now we need to re-strategize, now we need to get back on the drawing board. And I think that's where every entrepreneur comes to. We have to sometimes reinvent. And to be fair, our business on a daily basis has to keep evolving, especially in a world where everything's so competitive, where we have communication, where we have every medium at our hands to continue to see change and then try and create, to try and place it in our own pattern, our own mold. So I think you can never, as an entrepreneur, just sort of sit back and take life easy. You've got to continually be focused for the future.
I think you've rubbed very much shoulders with Richard Branson to have that spirit in you. It definitely did a good job on you.
Absolutely. Well, you're absolutely right there. I mean, I have to say, people sometimes say, is it? I mean, the interesting thing is, the question here is an entrepreneur, is it in their DNA from birth? Or is it something that evolves, or is it something because of the, let's say, the the kind of greenhouse that we live in? Is that the incubator of where it comes? And I think Richard Branson, I think there was always something in me from a young child, because I remember as a young child even sort of making wallpaper and sort of wrapping paper, just painting on piece of paper and selling it. So I was automatically thinking from a young age, I want to make something to sell it. And then I think at school I was quite sort of badly bullied, and I had quite a few scars from that. And then I came out into the world, and then I decided to kind of turn around that negative into positive, but also to really that person within that had this vision and purpose that can sometimes be knocked out of us because of maybe other people's opinion of us or what people think, kind of started to evolve again. And Richard Branson played a vital part in that. So I think Virgin did, because Richard would come aboard an aircraft and he'd say, Gabriella, what would you change today? How could we improve the customer experience? And he'd sit down on a bar box with a pad and he'd ask you, and you think, gosh, he's asking me, and he knew my name, and then you'd see the things that you suggested could be implemented in 2 or 3 months' time. So suddenly you're thinking, I have value, my voice has been heard, I'm a creator. And then when you're in that environment, which particularly Virgin was in the early days, it was sort of on the back of a cigarette packet, some of it, but we were continually evolving, and we were very much in the spirit of evolution. And Richard came in and kind of, do you remember that, the whole Virgin experience was something completely blue sky thinking that hadn't been done before, and uniforms and the whole ice creams after the film and the bar units at the front. So that was really, I think you're absolutely right, where it started, where what was probably there incubating me started to really flower and blossom. And that's what's imperative for people today. I think that you find your little patch in life, because, and whatever those tiny elements, even when you're young, that you feel you have, make sure you position yourself in environments where that is the spirit of what is going on around you, because ultimately it will sort of bring that sort of longing or that vision forward in a much faster way.
I wish you had a lot of time on your hands so that you could be a mentor, because I think a lot of people could learn from your experience and your fantastic way of presenting it. It's really invaluable. So thank you for that. It's really great.
That's all right. No, my pleasure. And I have to actually, well, I am on the Virgin Unite mentor, because that's a funny thing. Richard, about 3 years ago, I got involved in the Virgin Unite, which is a not-for-profit. So actually, that is the wonderful thing, and that is what entrepreneurs actually should always do, is we should always be passing down what we've learned, and always be trying to help others, because all of us were helped at one point. So I think in life you have to always reciprocate in the best way that you can. And I love actually mentoring now new entrepreneurs, because the ideas are amazing. They're so the enterprise, the initiative, even with the EVT Oels, if you look at what's happening now, people in a room getting together and creating these roadmaps ahead. So as the UK is a great entrepreneurial nation, so we need to encourage it, definitely.
Forget about Brexit, you're still going to go strong. It's all good.
Well, that absolutely. And I think Brexit, we mustn't be afraid. We mustn't be afraid of anything, actually, because when you're running a business, even let's look at the coronavirus, all these things will continue pop up to challenge that's why I'm saying you always have to be thinking, okay, how do we get around this? How do we solve this? Brexit, there are obviously issues in aviation that still need to be ironed out, but ultimately they will be, and there is a solution in everything. So it's just applying yourself with that kind of mindset, and I think post Brexit, England, can really pull on everything that we have, and be strong in terms of the economy and in everything, and in aviation. And as I said, 2 EVT Oel companies now popped up in the UK. So this is really exciting. Aerospace back here.
Fantastic, great stuff. And as we are on luxury with Natalia, I'd like to understand what your definition of luxury might be.
Luxury is quite an interesting thing, because when I get to my clients and I try and sort of say, because actually a business must always be based not on what you think, but what your clients are wanting.
Yeah.
So luxury for me is maybe one thing, and then my clients define it in another way. But I think luxury is different to all of us. Luxury for me is time, right? It's and so another it's something else. But I think luxury is really being able as a company and somebody that works in that arena is really focusing on the detail. It is about providing something always above and beyond the customer experience they've had before. Luxury is about people feeling indulged and experiential. So like even for us, a private jet is luxury. But then how do you make the onboard experience something that is differentiated to the rest? So because that's true luxury, when you get on board and you think, I've just not got 3 standard wines, I've got 3 red wines that we've asked them, what we have a preferred wine list. We take everything down to micro, even the biscuits on board, as you might have seen on our Instagram, just all the little details. So we want to make that experience something from 1-dimensional to 3-dimensional. And it's about luxury is individual to us all, but I think in aviation, it's about how in that piece of aluminum tubing can we create a really luxurious experience, not just the tangible physical stuff, but actually luxury being just in every part of that flight, from the minute all the ecosystems, everything that's working all the way through, that it creates something where somebody thinks actually that was a really luxurious, a lovely journey, whatever way you want to describe it. But yeah, I think it's personal to each individual.
That was really nicely put. And time is definitely one of the favourites around.
Yeah.
We live in such a constantly evolving and rapid world that time definitely is what we want to have a little bit more of, and is a luxury when we do have it. And on that note, thank you so much, Gabriella, as I know
pleasure.
Baby. This has been a wonderful experience, and I look forward to seeing you hopefully in the south of France very soon again.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Bring on the summer when all these colds and viruses are gone. So,
exactly. Yes, hopefully. Let's pray for that.
Yeah. Good to speak to you. Thanks, Natalia. Bye.
So everyone, this was an episode on Luxury with Natalia. More episodes coming very shortly. Have a lovely day. Bye.